Welcome back to Peek Into COS. Today, I'm sitting with John Haney, co-founder of the Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway Foundation, and also a longtime Visit Colorado Springs volunteer. John, welcome. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks, Doug. Great to be here with you.
So before we get into the Pikes Peak Trolley Museum and the foundation, I want to spend some time letting listeners getting to know you. How long have you been in Colorado Springs?
Well, Doug, I've lived in Colorado Springs 77 years. However, I've also spent a couple of years in the Army and also some time in Peace Corps in Venezuela and other parts of the country.
Well, now that you're retired, how did you start your career?
Well, I wanted to be a city planner.
Okay.
So I went to the University of Arizona and got a graduate degree in that, and went to Venezuela and practiced that. Tried to set up a city government.
Why Venezuela?
Well, that's
They were hiring?
well, I could speak Spanish.
Okay,
still do.
Yeah.
But that helped a lot, and I wanted to go to Latin America, and it would be a great place to go and use the language. And but I came home and went to work in planning. I wanted to do that kind of work, but I found that if you want to do that work and do it well, you have to be able to go just anywhere, you know. But I wanted to be here.
Okay.
This is a great place to be and no better place. So that meant I had to look at other things to do. So my career became a commercial property manager, and I worked with Griffiths Blessing here for nearly about 19 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. We're going to be talking about trolleys today and the foundation, but tell us, where did that spark get ignited for you?
Well, my dad took me to the railroad station in pre-television days to watch the steam engines come into town.
Okay.
That was terrific. So that was fun for rail kinds of things. But in 1950, he took me to Denver, and when the kids reached a certain age, he took us to Denver by passenger train we had in those days. We could go north on the Missouri Pacific Eagle to Denver and play around there all day long, and then come back on the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad coming south.
Wow.
So
How long did that trip take?
A day.
A day?
Well, because my father was a lawyer here, and so he saved some business for going to the capital and doing some work for the special visit like this. So off I went with my dad, and I got to ride on the last of the big yellow cars in Denver. Wow. And what a treat that was. My goodness, what an impression. So my guess is that's what sparked the initial passion.
But you didn't work in the trolley industry, did you?
No, never did. No.
It's just always been a passion.
Yeah, fun passion, you know, great hobby, and never thought it would be anything like it's become, but it's sure been a blast.
Well, so I think it's interesting, and one of the things that listeners can probably relate to is that, one person can make a difference when they get passionate about something, and whether it's some philanthropic endeavor that they have said has affected our family or whatever, and I'm gonna get something started. You started the Pikes Peak Historical Street Railway Foundation, and tell listeners about what year that started and what were the steps that went through getting that foundation started?
Fascinating time. I was in the midst of writing the first edition of Pikes Peak Trolleys at that time, and in connection with that, I met a man, William Viekman. He was an honorary doctorate, so we called him Dr. Viekman. He was formerly a missionary to Japan with International Students International, and I think that was the name of his. And he retired from that, but he had this great passion for rails and certainly streetcars.
Okay.
And so we thought he wanted to put together a little trolley village for retired missionaries.
Did he live here?
He lived here.
He lived here, okay.
So he had this concept of putting up this little place called Fredericksburg in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Never came about. But what our thinking and planning was, we came up with a mission that we would like to see acquire, restore, and operate an authentic Colorado Springs streetcar. And that evolved into eventually having a museum, but we still have always had that mission. Mm-hmm. So hopefully someday Colorado Springs will again see streetcars, but in connection with perhaps some urban renewal that could take place in areas that need some rejuvenation.
How many people were involved with this original vision?
Well, just William and I to begin with.
Okay.
But we gathered some
Yeah.
other pretty prominent people initially.
Okay.
We had a great time starting this.
And what year was this roughly?
1982.
This is 1982. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the museum and this trolley museum. Where can a visitor find information? And let's talk a little bit about the experience at the trolley museum.
Right. Well, the Trolley Museum is on Steel Drive, just south of CNC Sand, and just north of the utility yard. So if you come south on Steel Drive from Fillmore, you'll run right into us. You can't miss us.
Yeah, it's just north part of downtown Colorado Springs. Right.
North part of downtown Colorado Springs. So we have quite a collection of lots of things, meaning we have model railroads there, we have railroad cars, we have trolley cars, we have a garden railroad, and we even have a separate group that's affiliated with us called the Friends of the Cumbres Toltec Scenic Railroad that are rebuilding a car that will run on that railroad in southwestern Colorado. It goes from Antonito to Chama. But we are two separate groups, but we work really closely together. So you come to the museum and you're going to be shown around to the model railroads, the history of the Colorado Springs streetcar system, pictures of the building we're sitting in, and the evolution of transportation in Colorado Springs, the early history of Colorado Springs, because trolleys and the growth of the Colorado Springs all occurred concurrently. So we have quite a story on that, but we adapt our tours depending upon the group that we have there. For example, if we have a bunch of little kids, we'll have pretty accelerated, kind of move it through, interactive, and make it fast. And then if you have an adult tour, it's far more academic, local history. Mm-hmm. So we kind of tailor our tours to fit the crowd that comes to be with us.
Okay.
We always welcome our guests. We love people from everywhere. We have lots of out-of-towners as well. And all of our tours end with a ride on a streetcar on 400 feet of track.
Right.
So we have to be very careful as we back up.
Mm-hmm.
We can't go very far.
John, I'm not trying to throw a curveball at you from a statistic standpoint, but from working in our visitor center, volunteering there, we have a lot of locals that come in for information as well as visitors, because there's locals who are knowing they've got out-of-town guests coming and they come in to get a visitor's guide and understand. What would you say over maybe the course of a year, what's the percentage of out-of-town visitors that come to the Trolley Museum versus local residents?
Perhaps 25-30%.
Would be local residents?
Well, our local residents, that would be, of course, our majority.
Okay. Oh, that would be the bigger.
That would be our bigger group.
Okay.
But we're surprised that people that come in, they find us on our website.
Right.
And we're delighted to have them here from just everywhere.
So let's talk about trolleys in general. And would you say that there was a heyday in Colorado Springs where trolleys were, the predominant source or form of transportation around the city?
Great question. And absolutely, when Whitfield Scott Stratton purchased the system in 1900.
Okay.
That really got this thing going because he purchased the Colorado Springs Rapid Transit Railway, which was kind of hobbling along. But
Okay.
the city was growing. They were doing okay, but they sure needed a new buyer, and he was the one to do it.
Okay.
And he turned it into one of the best to be found anywhere. So he only lived for 2 years after he purchased it. But the trustees of his estate kept his values going. He was a very compassionate, very philanthropic person. He created loyalty amongst his people, but he also had a very exciting growth orientation for his. The trolleys continued to improve. They went further and further and changed in terms of direction and the
Okay.
areas they served. So from about 1901 to about 1917 or so, there were years in there that they actually made some money.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And they prospered. And particularly in the summer, Doug, that's when all the tourists came here. So it's right down your alley here.
Sure.
You know, they had tourist streetcars where they were open cars, and for 50 cents, people could take rides to the Broadmoor, to Manitou Springs. Manitou Springs was a big one.
Yeah.
To Myron Stratton Home and to other parts of the city. If they paid $1, they could get their lunch thrown in, their
How about
picnic
that?
lunch.
How about that?
So those were kind of the years of prosperity, and it was a big business here because we even built our own streetcars here in this one of these buildings on this block.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
We're in the trolley block.
it was a big business. And
Yeah.
not only, I mean, when they put out their brand new streetcar, they would light it up at night and go with a sign on front says, "This car built in our town," and they would drive it all the way around the city, you know,
Wow.
all lit up with bulbs all over the place because they were proud of what they could do.
Well, clearly it changed. I mean, the automobile, began in our society, if you will, not just it was around the world. Was the automobile really the invention that put trolleys in, kind of a thing of the past?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was it. And in Colorado Springs, we had pretty prosperous population. Some of it, there was a segment, people that came here from out of town because of tuberculosis. And my family was part of that group because both sides of my family had tuberculosis. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
But some of these people were very prosperous. They bought themselves automobiles.
Sure.
So we had a pretty good segment of automobile owners. So like other mid-sized cities like ours, people having their own automobile, and then the Great Depression came through here. Those two things cut out the streetcars all over the country.
Yep.
There weren't nickels, dimes, quarters, or tokens. There were not enough of them to
Right.
keep the trolley system going. So they had to shut down. For the big cities, though, big cities like Philadelphia, New York, Boston, that had factories and could move chunks of people from one area to another, those continued on. And many of those cities are still operating streetcars. They didn't have to shut down.
Okay.
Just the bigger city, the factory cities,
Sure.
which we definitely are not.
Right. When someone comes into the Trolley Museum today, how many trolleys will they see on display that they can walk through?
We have, I would say, about 4 that you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because that we're working on, or we just talk about.
Yep.
Yeah, and then one, of course, we give a ride on.
Sure.
One from Philadelphia.
And from start to finish, as you said earlier, if it's a group or you might go faster with young kids if somebody, but how long should people plan to be at the Trolley Museum on their visit?
I'd say at least an hour.
At least an hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if people have time constraints, so we tailor our visits
Yeah.
accordingly.
How many days a week are you open?
4 days.
4 days,
Yeah,
which
Wednesday
are
through Saturday.
Wednesday through
from
Saturday.
9:30, and our last till 3:00 in the afternoon. But our last tour starts at 3.
Okay.
At 2:00. Excuse me.
At 2:00.
So we can be done by 3.
Done by 3. Okay. Well, there is a book sitting in front of us here that is the Pikes Peak Trolleys, and I know this is a pride and joy for you.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that book?
Well, this is extremely exciting for me because it's a revision of the book that came out in 1983. So
Okay.
I've been encouraged by certainly your staff, Doris, over there. She said, John, we're in the digital age, you know. Printing is different. You can put this book out and it can be available to the world because it's on a system called on-demand printing. You don't have to print up 2,000 or 3,000 and find somebody to sell them.
Sure.
But you can produce considerably fewer numbers as demand requires. So about a year and a half ago, I took on this job of revising this book, and now it's a 250-page coffee table style book.
Yeah.
180 photographs. We have 3 maps in here in the back. We're going to have those separately available for purchase. But we have an expanded index in this, many anecdotes of fun and interesting stories. So this book is, I'm so proud of it, so happy of it, and our publishers did a piece of art. And I just want everybody to know one that is interested in this stuff.
Well, and so I take it they can purchase the book at the Trolley Museum.
They can, and of course at the visitors. It's Visit Colorado Springs. They're going to carry, and Hooked on Books at 12 East Bijou will carry it as well.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Well, this is probably going to sound like a loaded question, but I mean, why do you think preserving history for trolleys is so important?
Well, let's just take an example here. Let's just say Colorado Springs would like to do some urban renewal and really some beautiful planning that would enable people to not rely 100% on their cars.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say that community was redeveloped between I-25 and University Village, in that neighborhood all the way down North Nevada through Colorado Springs, downtown by near Widener Stadium, the Visitors Colorado Springs office, and on down to Ivywild. Let's just say that was considered a neighborhood to redevelop. A trolley system could be the spine for that, help distribute people that are having to find parking spaces.
Sure.
Downtown, of course, is redeveloping with thousands of people. We found that, well, first of all, planning can create a very integrated kind of a redevelopment.
Okay.
When we have done studies, we've been part of studies that the city directed, and had feedback from different meetings on that people love trolleys.
Yeah.
You say, you all do all the development, and we'll put our stamp on it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
and you're a city planner,
well,
so
city
you know.
Planner, so what do you do? And so, and I also know that we are a non-tax community. People don't want to be taxed for anything. So, anyway, the opportunity may be there. So, when we come to, let's just say there was a streetcar system, people like the vintage old car kind of a concept, as well as some new ones. So we found that there was a lot of interest in a variety of kinds of equipment people could ride on. So history does enter in that, enter into that. Another way to look at history, when we have little kids come into the museum, and here they're just going bananas because they want to see trolleys, they want to see railroads. You know, that's genetic. Because I ask the parents, I say, well, where does this all come from? They say, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
How does history work into something like that? And another thing, Doug, you take this block that you are in here. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful to spend time here with you all. People find there's nostalgia in some of the reuse of the old buildings here. And how do you explain that? How do you explain nostalgia? But that's history.
Yeah.
When you look back and you see that there's something that's fun and interesting. Now, that's another aspect of history. And another, of course, is, what's the importance of history? Well, there are things that we do well, there are things we don't do well. We all need to know those things the best we can so we can be better citizens and better planners for the future for our lives and for our communities.
I like that. And I know that I've heard conversation about the city of Cripple Creek actually looking at a trolley system
Yep.
up there.
That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah, you've heard that as well. It's been a couple years. I think
Yeah.
that conversation might have been a little maybe pre-COVID, but I don't know where that stands today.
Right.
But I just it's been a while. But Cripple Creek, that was how they had a trolley system.
They did have for a while. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do this. Let me take a little break here and let listeners know it's that time of year again, the crafts and drafts season. This year, we're honoring our dedicated pass holders with an exclusive Secret Society themed passport. Users have access to deals and discounts and can earn points by redeeming at participating locations to put towards prizes. Download yours today at visitcos.com/passport and enjoy the deals through the end of the year. Okay, John, 77 years you have lived here in Colorado Springs. This first question, I think, will be an easy one for you. In just 3 words, how would you describe Colorado Springs?
Don't miss it.
Don't miss it. There you go. I'm not surprised that you could do it in those 3 words. And why do you say that?
I could live so many different places. We've got to visit so many places. I've been so blessed that to be able to travel in so many parts of the world, seeking trolley systems out, of course.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But I mean, so my family had tuberculosis, and they came here because of the sunshine and the fresh air. That's the big selling thing,
It is.
Over 300 days of sun a year. And so I'm a sun guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to be anywhere else. My children live on both coasts, and I don't want to go either place to live, Doug. So this is tough to beat.
Yeah.
As a home base.
Right.
And
I
wow,
agree.
I just hope this is the only place I ever have to be.
Great.
Is home base.
All right. Second question. What is your favorite hidden gem in the Pikes Peak region? Where do you like to go just besides the Trolley Museum to just get away and enjoy the Pikes Peak region?
Oh, wow. There are lots of them, I think, but one I've always, mostly when I was doing more hiking, loved the most was the Palmer Trail.
Palmer Trail. Yeah.
Great. I did so much hiking, so many hundreds of miles over the years, and good place to put my ashes.
Yeah, there you go. Palmer Trail.
It's Palmer Trail's absolutely has more and more bikes are on trails, which I find a problem. I appreciate that sport an awful lot, but it's an awfully wonderful place for peace and quiet and
Palmer Trail.
exercise. You throw all that together, for a person who loves activities here and to be outside. That's a tough one to beat.
Sure.
All
right, now this one's going to stretch you.
Yeah, good.
Bucket list. Is there still something on your Colorado Springs bucket list that you have not done yet?
Gosh, I find things come up all the time.
Yeah.
A new restaurant.
Okay.
To try. New band to hear. In the summertime we comb the pages to find out who's playing where. Those are wonderful things.
Have you been up to the new Ford Amphitheater yet?
No.
No. Okay. So there's one. And how about, have you taken the COG up to the new summit?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you've done that for sure.
So my book, I mean, they don't last long here.
Right.
We pursue as much as we can, as long as we can, Doug.
Well, it's interesting because for those who are listening, if John Haney is at the Visitor Center many Monday afternoons talking to people that come in looking for information and of what there is to do. When John can look at somebody and say, "Don't miss it," it's because you have to know what's going on. As a volunteer at the visitor center, people you're the first impression, and we're so fortunate to have you. And I guess publicly, I want to just say thank you for the passion and the knowledge that you share with our visitors and our residents when they come in looking for information.
Well, I sure appreciate that, Doug, and I'm so grateful to have that opportunity. But one thing I've kind of found as a philosophy when somebody comes in and says, "Oh, what am I going to do here?"
Yeah.
Well, I say, "Well, now what have you been reading about?" And somebody has at least some inclination. So they'll tell me that.
Yeah.
And then I say, "Well, my job here is to help refine that interest of yours."
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that to be a kind of a constructive way to approach helping people. It's just because, I mean, we're the body here that can say, "This is what I do." Or they might say, "Well, what would you do if you were me?" And I tell them, see?
Yeah.
And so I think we can be kind of focused in helping our visitors that way. Because when I go someplace to a visitor's bureau, I say, "Well, tell me what are the 3 top things you would do here?"
I do the same thing. When I go to a city, I definitely find a visitor center.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so tell our listeners, to wrap up, where they can find more information on the Trolley Museum in Colorado Springs.
Well, they can come to the Visitors Bureau,
Yep.
and they can pick up our brochure, which I have a copy of here.
Okay.
Would you like me to pick that out?
That's okay. If you can sure do that. Now, that probably has the website on there, too.
We're open for you.
Yeah.
ColoradoSpringsTrolleys.com.
Okay,
And,
Colorado Springs Trolleys. And that's plural as in trolleys? Let's see here. Okay, yeah, so it's www.coloradospringstrolleys, that's plural, .com.
Right.
That's the website. And you can email them at streetcar@pphsrf.com. And it is just part of our history that I hope listeners, whether you live here or not, will make it a part of your itinerary when you come to Colorado Springs. John, thank you very, very much. This was special to me to be able to share this with our listeners, and just what a gem you are for our community.
Well, blessings to you all. Thank you. It's been great to be here. It's much fun. Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, John.
Yep.